Hey friends, thanks for joining me for episode 2 of Second Chance. Do they still stink? These are fragrances that I have tried before and I said no to a full bottle of for one reason or another. They either didn't float my boat at the time, there was something about the performance that bothered me, or something about the fragrance that just didn't jive with me. But I thought they were ones that were at least worth a second sniff, either because they were super popular and a lot of you love them and so I was questioning myself, or there was some redeeming quality at the time of trying that I was really interested and exploring further. If you saw the first video, you know that this is like a faux perfume science experiment where I really do believe in testing on skin. Although the thing about it is I'm not testing full body. I'm just testing in a small portion of my arm and then also on blotter. And so it's a super limited experience. Just know that things are very different when you put it on whole body and go out into the world and see how people react to it. The other thing to remember, my friends, as we talk today, because remember, this is just for entertainment. These little samples that we get, they're not a lot, right? And then they greatly oxidize in the little tubes because it's such a small amount of perfume and there's so much air hitting this large surface area. And so that does sort of alter the perfume in your samples. For those of you that keep your samples over a long period of time and revisit them, oftentimes they will change because they have been exposed. So much of the surface area of the fluid has been exposed to oxygen over time that inevitably it changes the perfume a little bit. One that I think I have changed my mind on based on trying it this time around is from Vilhelm Parfumerie, and this is Sparkling Joe, named after Josephine Baker. Now I think of Josephine Baker, the figure from the past, as being sort of this sultry, nighttime jazz club songbird. And so I was expecting this really sort of dark, deep fragrance. I had heard some of the reviews being as opposite of that. And so, I don't know, my mind was still sort of stuck on this like jazz clubby type of fragrance. And so I guess I was a little surprised when I first tried this. I said that it was nice, but maybe a little bit boring and nondescript and very fleeting. And I think I have changed my mind on this in that now that I have tried it again without that expectation that I originally had of what the fragrance should smell like based on the person that it is named after, this is very sparkling. I love that word attached to this fragrance. There's a strong sort of champagne bubbliness to this fragrance. And I have to say, it smells very clean. It smells almost like the freshest, lightest soap with this beautiful, really clean pear note. So in that sense, it kind of gives me some, not all, but some of the vibes of Juliet Has a Gun Pear Ink, in that there's a pear note in there as well, but it's a very clean, almost aldehydic pear, if you could imagine something like that. It is bright, it is sparkly. I still contend it is soft to the skin, not a very projecting or long-lasting fragrance. Again, this is a very, very limited sampling experience here, so take it for what you will. But I do like it, and I think it has this sort of soft, clean, musky base to it that I think I enjoy. So this is one that I don't know if I'll purchase a full bottle, only because I have again, you're going to hear this theme a lot, and this is me, this isn't you. So take this with a grain of salt. I don't necessarily need something like this in my collection, but I have so many in my collection that that's really not like a fair statement. What I will say is if you're in the neighborhood for a sparkly, clean smelling, like almost slightly soapy fragrance that is bright and light and airy and fresh, this might be one that you're interested in, and it might be one that I would be interested in at least a travel spray of. I'm finding that travel sprays are lasting me a long time and are really a fun way to try out fragrances over a length of time, a period of time, to see if I want a full bottle or not. I still buy full bottles. I still blind buy full bottles all the time, but I can't buy full bottles of everything. However, that said, I will change my rating of this fragrance to something like a 6.5 to a 7, which for me is a really good score and indicative of something that I like and I think smells good. So that's Sparkling Joe. Let's come back now to Jany from Sora, Dora. I wasn't interested in a bottle of this when I first tried it. It does smell like apple pie on the opening. And it smells like an apple pie candle rather than actual apple pie. I really feel like Angel Share is more in the apple pie direction, not quite as literal as you would think about smelling like an actual apple pie, but it's more apple pie-y than Jany is by Dora or Jany, or however you pronounce it. This is really nice though. It is fall spicy. It's got like that apple spicy, pumpkin pie spice, you know, cinnamony, clovey kind of smell to it. And it's happy, and it's got, I would say, like fresh apples more so than baked apples. I feel like Angel Share smells more in the baked pie direction. This smells more like fresh apples sprinkled with some kind of pumpkin pie or cinnamon mixture on it. And I think it's nice. I don't know that this is a fragrance I necessarily want to smell like at this point in the fall. If you like a spiced apple kind of smell, if you like the way those candles smell and you wish that they came in perfume form, this might be a good one to try out. It definitely gives you that. I still think this is one that gets a little bit softer and maybe flatter in the dry down. The opening of it into the first maybe 20 to 30 minutes or so does give you that fresh apple and spice deal. And then you still get that in the dry down, but it does sort of flatten out and get a little more dull in terms of the vibrancy of those tones in the scents, if that makes sense. And then I also get this sort of like pie crust smell. So if you've ever scooped the filling out of like a fall pie and you're left with the crust and you're bringing the crust up to your mouth to eat, the sort of warm smell of crust, a little bit of that. So I guess it does have a little bit of that baked apple pie in that sense, even though it's not baked apple smell. I hope that makes sense. So fresh apples, spices, and then cooked cooked crust of pie is a little bit of what I get from Jany. So I probably give this for a fall scent, that people want, apples and spices and all of that, I would give this like a 7.5, even though it's not necessarily one that I want to add to my collection. And I do like the bottle. I think the bottle is really pretty. So we're going to give that bottle a thumbs up. And we're going to give the fragrance a thumbs up, even though it's not necessarily my favorite scent profile on myself right now. So then, years ago, one of my lovely friends out here in the YouTube world sent me a sample of Cruz del Sur II from Xerjoff. And I was really looking forward to this lactonic, maybe even creamy mango dream of a fragrance that was going to be sweet and summery and fantastic. And when I first tried it, I thought that this was rancid on me. It smelled so sour and weird and chemically and nauseating. I couldn't stomach it. It kind of gave me like a scent headache, like where you're like, whoa, if I smell that anymore, I'm going to be sick. And I haven't had a chance to try it since then. I recently reordered a sample and I've tried it a few times since. And I have to say, this is one that I still think is not for me. However, I can see the benefit to it and I can understand why people like it. So I've heard a lot of people describe this as a mango milkshake. I get that. I definitely get a better mango this time trying it than I did the first time when I sampled it. When I sampled it, it just smelled like rancid and nauseating and overpowering and like sickening. It was just a horrible, horrible smell for me. Now I get the softer, sweeter, rounder, more milky mango. And I don't know that I get milkshake per se, but I definitely get something creamy and lactonic. I still think for me, there's something about the texture, tone, intensity of the sweetness of this fragrance or something, I can't really quite put my finger on it, that still doesn't suit me particularly and how I want to smell. But I think if I smelled this on someone else, I think they would smell good. Does that make sense? So I no longer am nauseated by Cruz del Sur II. I no longer turn my nose up at it. I can just accept that it's a lovely fragrance that smells great on others that I don't think is my vibe. And I would give this a score for what it is of probably in the 7 to 8 neighborhood. So it's kind of one of those things. If I liked a lactonic mango fragrance, I would probably think this smelled good. But since that's not sort of my thing, I still don't think this is something that I want. All right, so here comes a super controversial take. I'm going to lose some of y'all on this. I tried Matiere Premier Vanilla Powder, which was a super hyped fragrance, and people absolutely adore this and go bananas over it. Speaking of bananas, the first time that I tried this fragrance, I said that I smelled a little tinge of plátanos, which is like the green plantain when you smush them down and you fry them. I still get a slight hint of that, but not quite as much as I did the first time. And again, I don't know if that's because the little bit of fluid that I have left in my sample has oxidized and changed and been exposed to air and all of that. I don't know. So this is a nice vanilla. Here's what I get out of this. For those of you that have tried Cirque du Soleil, the L'Eau de Parfum, on the dry down, that vanilla for me is like an area version of this vanilla powder. It's the same kind of thing. So I just remain perplexed at how different people pick up such different experiences from vanillas that for me all smell very similar in nature. There are slight nuances and differences, sure, but the way that people can rave over one vanilla and then I come across another vanilla that smells pretty similar, I would say 85 to 90% the same, and people hate it, that kind of a thing. So people love this vanilla powder. They also love Cirque du Soleil. And on the dry down, fight me if you want to, but they all kind of smell like Afternoon Delight from Maison Margiela, which has been dragged through all of the YouTube mud possible. And I'm over here like, they all kind of smell very, very similar to me. Mind you, I'm a little bit on the older side. Maybe it is that this nose here isn't as strong and powerful as it used to be in terms of detecting scents. I get that. Maybe I'm in the minority with this opinion, but I do get perplexed at how like a fragrance like Afternoon Delight can just hit a nerve for people. And people are so angry and upset that they wasted all their money on this fragrance. And for me, it smells very similar to these other fragrances that get enormous hype that people go out and buy in droves. They sell out. And I'm like, folks, can we talk about it? Because they're kind of very similar to me, at least in the dry down. Here's the thing, in the dry down, the openings are all different. Okay, so back to vanilla powder itself. My rant is over. I'm gonna get off of my little soapbox, y'all. I don't know. It smells like vanilla. I still don't want a bottle of it. I still don't understand the hype. I'm still a little bit confused. I have changed my mind about the next one, and I may consider a bottle of this one. It is Sunshine Woman from Amouage. This is a fragrance, and when I first tried it, it felt like too strong on the apricot, and there was something a little bit like tobacco-y, cigarette-y for me. And I mean like tobacco that has been smoked, not fresh tobacco leaves, which I actually love the smell of, and I love the smell of dry tobacco leaves too. Hey, listen, I live in Central Virginia, and I have also lived in Southern Virginia, and I have driven back and forth between these two through that corridor, and there are a lot of tobacco farms along the way, and you can smell fresh tobacco, and you can smell tobacco that is smoked and or dried out, and I know those smells very well. What I'm talking about is I got like a little bit of an ashy cigarette type of smell when I first tried this. So I have to say I'm getting a different experience now, although I can see how people still pick up that sort of cigarette ashy smell. It is really delightful. I get much more of a stone fruit sweetness. So think about like peaches and apricots, the kind of sweetness that those fruit offer. It's a unique kind of fresh, juicy sweetness that's different from a berry sweetness, that's different from a pear sweetness. It's its own deal. I do like that a lot. I can see how people really love this. It does have like this sort of hazy texture in the dry down. There's patchouli in the fragrance. I'm looking at the note structure here. There's an almondiness, osmanthus. Osmanthus comes across a little apricot-y, blackcurrant liqueur. So I can see this as a really sort of deep, fruity fragrance that has this sort of like hazy texture to it in the background. I don't like the name of it, Sunshine Woman. It makes me think of a summery fragrance. I feel like this should be called something else and should be in a bottle that has maybe like that color, these sort of, well, maybe even the color of my nails or something like that, the color of my lipstick even. I think that could work for this fragrance. It is lovely. And, you know, this is on discount often. I may consider picking up a bottle of this. I have grown my Amouage collection a lot. It has really grown on me as a house, and I'm enjoying a lot of them. So maybe this one will be added to my collection. I would give this now like between a 7 and an 8 as a fragrance, and I think it's really nice. So yay, Sunshine Woman. I have changed my mind on that. Another fragrance that I am appreciating more now as I've tried it again versus the first time is Rosendo Mateu number 8. The notes here, pineapple, apple, citrus, pear, amber, some spices, rose, patchouli, vanilla. There's a lot going on. Cedar, gaiac, vetiver. So this woodiness in the base and these nice fruity, happy, summery notes in the opening. And I get it now. I'm having a completely different experience with this fragrance than I did the first time. The first time it fell pretty flat on me. I tried it and I liked the opening. I thought it was really pretty as an opening, but I felt like it just sort of fizzled out and became boring in the dry down. This time when I'm trying it, it is actually retaining that sort of fruitiness throughout the body of the fragrance. Again, just a sampling experience in this very limited region of my arm. But I do like it, and it's one that, again, I don't know that I necessarily want a full bottle of this, but I would definitely welcome a bigger decant or a travel spray to play with this a little bit more, and maybe one that's on my radar for pickup as we go into next summer, or if I see it on massive sale this winter, because you know a sale can change a girl's mind in a minute. So I'm going to give Rosendo Mateu number 8 a thumbs up as a nice fruity fragrance that has a woody base to it that is probably versatile for those of you that are fruity fragrance lovers. This is really quite delightful. Again, take all of this with a grain of salt because as you see, I'm testing in very limited, specific, little tiny parts of my body. So do with that what you will, okay? I will say this is an interesting thing that happened when I was sampling the Sunshine Woman. I accidentally put too much on my hand. Like I doused myself with it. So it wasn't just a little circle. It was my entire palm of my hand. And I got, of course, a very different experience than if you're just testing in this one little tiny quarter-size space of your skin. So imagine the difference between testing just in a little spot as you're in the department store and you're actually spraying your whole body with a full bottle of fragrance. Two sort of completely different vibes. Okay, so just that's an important thing to keep in mind, and why you should take all of these sampling videos. It doesn't matter if they're my videos or your other favorite YouTubers. I don't care who they are. I don't care how big their channels are. I don't care how much you trust their opinions. When we're all doing these very limited sampling experiences, take our opinions with a grain of salt and test for yourself and see what you think and whether you like it on your skin, full body wear. Get a full decant, spray yourself down, see what you think. Let's move on. So the next one up is Parisian Musc, also from Matiere Premier, just like vanilla powder. And this is one that I heard some bigger YouTubers really raving about that they loved. When I first tried it, I got this immediate, really strong, almost like greenish metallic reaction to it. And I was like, whoa, I'm not sure what that's all about or why anybody would be into that smell. As I'm trying it again, I can understand why people like this fragrance. I still don't think I personally love it, but I appreciate it a lot more. It does have a very, very soft, delicate muskiness to it. And someone here, I forget who it is, so if it was you, put your name in the comments and just raise your hand and say, that was me, described it as vegetal smelling. And I'm like, yes, that is it. It is like, it's green, but in a vegetal way. So if you think about when you're chopping veggies, the smell that you get from a bunch of vegetables that you've put together that you're about to maybe toss into your pan. Before you put it in the pan and they're sitting there on the counter, on the chopping block, the way that they smell, that sort of fresh, really crisp greenness without being too into like jungle territory with the greenness. I do get that. And I even get some very nice crisp florals. I don't know if it's like violet or iris or one of those kinds of purpley types of notes that I'm picking up with this fragrance. I haven't looked it up in a while, and maybe a soft white floral somewhere. So I do appreciate this. Again, I don't know that it's one that I personally need a bottle of or I'm interested in a bottle of. If somebody gifted this to me or gave me even a travel spray, would I wear it for a full day? Yes. Although I would have said when I first sampled it, absolutely, hell to the no, hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, 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 hell to the no. This would have been a hell no. And now it's a, yeah, I'll take a little sample. I'll wear that. Sure. You know, I have an appreciation for it. So let's move on. Okay, so I'm going to end with a fragrance that nearly tricked me into changing my mind. This is A from Pantheon Roma, which is one that I've heard raved and raved and raved about. I do think the bottle is pretty. I don't know why it's called the letter A. I wish it was something a little bit more interesting than that, but I don't know the story behind it. Do you know? Let us know in the comments. The bottle itself is kind of pretty. It's mega expensive. This bottle is like over $300 retail, if I'm not mistaken. It does show up on sale on like Jomashop, not Jomashop, pardon me, on Max Aroma. And I had considered blind buying it. And so I can see how people love this. I can see how it comes across super sophisticated in the air. I can see how people enjoy wearing this. It does harken back to the past. It reminds me of some of the more glorious fragrances of the past. However, and again, here's the trouble with sampling. I probably should have done like a full day wear to be fair to this fragrance. I get what people probably enjoy, but I'm not going to lie. I also get some Mr. Clean. Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Y'all remember that? Do you still use Mr. Clean? Is it still in stores? I don't even know. Is it still sold? But I get distinctly Mr. Clean, which is like almost this astringent, lemony smell with cleaner. Like, is there ammonia in Mr. Clean? There's something like that. Now, if I pull back, which I always tell people to do, don't stick your nose in the fragrance. Pull away some and kind of hover. I do get the sophistication of this. So I want to be fair and say, I get it. I get what people smell. I don't get the accords that are listed on Fragrantica. It says sweet, vanilla, tropical, and amber as the top accords that people have claimed that this smells like. This smells definitely ambery to me. But I also get citrus in this fragrance. Does anyone else get citrus? Perfumey citrus, but citrus nonetheless. I guess I do get this sort of like creamy, sweet accord in the background, but this is a very confusing fragrance for me still. Now, if I come across a nicely priced travel spray of this, I would not hesitate to purchase that and try this full body to see what I think. But just on like sampling, I'm like, oof, for the price tag, I don't think I'm willing to spring for a full bottle of this. Okay, friends, I think I'm going to leave it there for now for this episode 2. I have some lined up for episode 3 already. I have Elop, La Tarte Tatin, and Fleur Soft Spot, and maybe a few others here that will be added as we go along. If there are any that I have tried that I hated, that you remember I hated, and you'd like me to try them again, please drop that in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and thank you for not taking any of this seriously at all. It is just perfume fun amongst friends. You know what I'm saying? See you in the next one. Take care.